Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for another edition of the Ferdsilinks podcast. We bring you information with respect to the world of technology, research, and data, and whatever is happening. And today we have an amazing researcher who will be discussing his work. He started into the world of research, all his amazing publications, and all. So it's a great day and a great opportunity to experience what it means to be in the world of research. With me today, we have Mr. Agbor. He is a doctor in the making, a research fellow, uh, a data analyst, and a journal editor. I think he reviews papers for international journals. And he will be joining me today. So thank you for joining me, Mr. Agbor. You are welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Before we go in, for somebody who have no idea about who you are, it'll be good that we start from there and just to share your experience from how you started your journey into the world of research to becoming a PhD candidate in sociology. Just help us.
Okay, thank you very much once more. My name is Junior Agbor, and my journey has been a very interesting one, I would say. My background has been in sociology. I've been within the sociology field for the last 9 years. Yeah, and from time to time, I do interdisciplinary exchange with anthropology but also public health. I got interested in research. I've always been doing research since at the time when I started doing my master's degree. I found out that I had a few strengths, I had a few skills in research, but I did not take it as an additional activity to my studies. When I started my career, I was more or less interested in development. So I started volunteering with grassroots organizations like Noelia Lyonga Foundation, which at the time was one of the most vibrant youth organizations in Buea. And then gradually I moved from Lyonga to FAPS, fighting poverty for sustainable development, something like that. Yeah. At the announcement of the humanitarian crisis in the Southwest region, in relation to the Anglophone crisis, most of these development organizations or associations became humanitarian organizations. So there was less activities for development. So it became now more of humanitarian response activities. But still, I was still navigating them both. I was still managing them both. So I kept switching. Today, I work as a development actor. Tomorrow, I work as a humanitarian actor. While doing this, I got a chance to work in different communities. The interesting thing is that most of my activities or most of my roles in all of these organizations was tapping into research. So it was more of formative activities like need assessment or community mobilization or interviewing people to sample their opinions about different things, or even collecting data using quantitative tools like questionnaires. And then at some point, as time went on, I kept growing in terms of experience, in terms of skills, in terms of mastery of how these sectors operate. And then I became a little bit discouraged by a few weaknesses within the system because as a person, I have values which I uphold. And I felt these values could not coexist with the way things are done within the humanitarian space or the development community. So in the course of having this rethink or to reset my whole journey, I found out that, wow, I've been doing research all this while and I'm super comfortable doing research. Yeah, so I had to completely switch from the service delivery kind of working with societies, which is what is mostly done by these organizations, by humanitarian and development organizations, into the knowledge creation part of the broader ecosystem, which is research. So I develop the knowledge, and then some other person maybe applies this knowledge. So with that change, I got engaged with Ferdsilinks because I knew the executive of Ferdsilinks way back because we were mates, and he was already doing professional research at the time. So it kind of gave me an opportunity to actually like more like a springboard, a plan B that I can always get back to. I can always fall back to. So if I try to do things relating to research and it's a little bit stuck, I can always fall back to Ferdsilinks because they are doing research at the professional level. Though I'm not a core member of it, but I can always fall back there. So I got engaged with Ferdsilinks and we did a few things here and there, and I was able to get my feedback on. Shortly after, I was able to get an opportunity in Yaoundé with a research organization. Mind you that I lived in Buea in the last 12 to 15 years of my life before moving abroad. And the space of Buea, despite the fact that it is a university hub, a hub for higher education, regrettably and unfortunately, research is not their thing. Like you find very few, very few research organizations or platforms in Buea, and one amongst the very few that I know was Ferdsilinks. Yeah, so it's kind of very difficult to actually, unless you are very decisive and you've been able to pinpoint this as a career or a strength. Other than that, it becomes very difficult to actually navigate your way into becoming a researcher in Buea. I mean, most especially when you are not within the university setting. If you're not within a core institution like the University of Buea, because even the professional schools, most of them do not engage into research. They do not invest in research. Like I can remember one of these experiences I had teaching in Yaoundé. They asked me, what am I bringing to the table? Like aside from the teaching, what am I bringing? I said, apart from the teaching, I'm bringing research skills that I can help the students to build a research platform for themselves. And then the human resource guy told me, no, we're not bringing you here to become a researcher or to teach students how to do research. We're bringing it to help students to teach HND. I was like, okay, wow, all right, fine. So, I mean, it cements my critique of assuming that institutes of higher education are automatically universities. Yeah. So back to Buea, it was kind of very difficult, and I decided to try out Yaoundé because I'd already moved to Yaoundé at the time, and I had these skills. Over time, I had built myself with the little exposure I had from people who were into research, but also tapping from my experience working within the development field and the humanitarian field. I identified a few skills and I built on these skills that will help propel me in the space of research. So I applied to an organization. I recall the host saying I worked as a consultant in EVIDAF. Yeah, I worked as a consultant, but before which I had worked as a full-time research officer in EVIDAF. Yeah, so EVIDAF is a research organization. It's an international research organization, strictly research. They do both quant and qual, and my area of specialty is qual. More or less, they do both quant and qual.
I think we'll get to talk more about your work there. Okay. Before we move on, I think that is a whole lot of experience, and it makes me feel that you have a wealth of knowledge in the field of research. Given that we look at our colleagues and friends today, they go to university, and most of them, they really don't have interest for research. They give them the thesis, or they just do anything for the fulfillment of academic requirement without necessarily putting in the effort. So it's strange to see that somebody like you, it seems as a significant part of what you have done, apart from working with the foundation that you mentioned earlier, was focusing around research. And after studying your profile, I discovered that your area of interest is more sociology of health, research in the domain of sociology of health. So I'm curious, like listeners, what sparked your interest into this area? And for somebody who doesn't even understand what sociology of health is all about, can you just throw light so that our audience should understand your motivation and what you do in the field of sociology of research as of today? What sparked your interest into research in general, sociology of health in particular, which is the core dimension that after reviewing your work, I discovered that it's your domain of expertise?
Okay, thank you so much. That's a very wonderful question, and it's a question I have never had the chance to ponder on at a social level. First, my background in health connects to my childhood. My mother was a health practitioner, though she's retired. And I happened to grow up in a neighborhood that is very close to the hospital. I might even say at the hospital Pekin, because one of the fresh memories of my childhood, like my childhood playground, will be the hospital, running and through the tunnels, running on the staircase in the district hospital of Manfi. Yeah, so I've always been very close to the hospital or the health system. I was also opportune to discover my strengths, academic wise, at a very early age, at the very early start of my career, of my university days. So I knew that I had strengths in being inquisitive. Yes. Now I could do something else. Maybe I could do politics, but I felt like the political space is saturated and there's a lot of rotting in the health space. And there's a lot of disconnection between medical science and the society. It's almost as if medical doctors, in most cases, people feel like medical doctors are abstract, or the hospital is abstract from the society, whereas it's not the case. Now, sociology of health comes to connect or to build a connection between medicine and everything that comes with it, all its traits, the healthcare practitioners, the institution, the system, and the society. So it looks at how illnesses, how diseases connect or are communicated between the health practitioners and the society. Yeah. So my interest is more or less settled on a nexus of sociology and public health. So I'm more interested in connecting the dots, how society interprets medicine, and how members of the society relate with members in the medical field. That's more or less what I do. And my interest was in breaking that gap, understand how this relationship goes and how it affects the quality of life or the quality of whatever outcome that comes out of this relationship. Yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting. In some, I think your love for having grown up maybe very frequent in the hospital, you saw the sufferings, your curiosity, and many others motivated your interest to ask questions that will better the health of the society, given your background as a sociologist. That's interesting. Looking at your, let's talk now with respect to your research methods and technology, which is something that everybody that's interested in research today must consider. We have things like AI, we have so many tools that are available out there. And your proficiency is with tools like Quickos, which is used for qualitative, Math are also used for qualitative, and Vivo, and even SPSS, which I know that is more quantitative in time. As a qualitative researcher, and although you are blind, but with more focus on qualitative, how has technology transformed sociological research? And given your experience in African context and now maybe the European settings, how can you say that technology has, and is there any difference the way research is done in Cameroon, done in Europe, like Belgium, where you currently were discussing?
Mhm. I'm happy you brought this up about the distinction of not really distinction about the point that I am more of a qualitative researcher. It's something which I am largely investing in because I feel AI has come to stay and AI is a good thing, but at the same time it could also be a bad thing. Yeah, it's bad because it's taking away a lot of jobs, but it's good at the same time because it's making the work at the limited time, like it uses limited time to do work and with more efficiency. Now, I feel like sociology, just like many other social science disciplines, has been greatly affected by AI in that both positively and negatively. Positively in that it helps to facilitate research tasks like doing late review, I mean, these days we no longer have to read an article of 35 pages just to get a sense of what you're saying. Yeah, AI can help us do that ethically. Yes, these days for qualitative researchers, we don't have to burn the midnight candle to read through a transcript of maybe 25, 30 pages just to develop a code book. Maybe you have 20 of such transcripts. In sociology, maybe you have 20 or more of such transcripts of that length. You don't have to read that much. You just probably have to read one or two of the transcripts, and then you build codes from them, and then you tell AI to maybe they organize that AI in a way that will make them in the space of research. Yeah, I mean these are some of the there are other functions. There's some functions that you normally can have just with the software before, but AI also does them, like the word clouds, for example, for those in the qual, like the word clouds. AI does that with within less time, and I mean those are some of the plus that that AI has added to the world of research. But at the same time, AI has been super dangerous in the space of research for sociologists, because these days, personally, I find it very difficult to believe in numerical data, because AI has proven that it is very efficient or very effective in cooking data, like inferring from a little sample into a very large conclusion. Yeah, I mean, those are some of that is one of the weaknesses that I find in AI within the space of sociological research. But there is hope, because in as much as it has consumed one quantitative research to that extent, the qualitative part of it still stands, because until now, given that qualitative research deals more with the micro, it deals more with opinions, it deals more with personal experiences. AI can never directly fit into that space, because the nuances that you can get from a personal data, AI will not be able to give you those kind of nuances, because it is very subjective, and it is very specific to a particular person. So I feel like AI has done more harm to the quant part, and there is still hope for the qual, as long as we keep the integrity of the research. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Still talking about AI, and you have made it obvious that AI is a good contributor to the world of research, that it facilitates the work, but you are also raising some concerns. So, looking at the way the AI is growing, I think before we even came in for this interview, I had to employ some AI tools to be able to do research about your works and get a lot about you. Should we be optimistic on the role that AI tools will contribute to our research approach, or be worried that AI is going to make research irrelevant because they try to automate everything, they can copy and paste with confidence, although they're hallucinating, bringing fake figures and presenting them as something very real. I had an experience. A student went and searched for kind of empirical literature online. It was presented, and AI just generated some references and gave. They were very well presented, but nothing was real. So what do you see as a researcher that will be the challenges, and what do the future of research hold with the presence of AI?
Okay. First, I think the student in the example you just gave, seems to me as a newbie to using ChatGPT in research, because the problem of having of I mean, it's no news to me that ChatGPT generates fake references or citations, but perhaps that's because I've been using ChatGPT for a very long time, and and I know lots of the lapses, and I know maybe to some extent some of the lapses that you can have, and to some extent I can also identify a text that is AI generated just in some way. But the recent versions of ChatGPT are more effective. I mean, like they're more effective, and they can give you verifiable references. It all depends on how you prompt. But I think that with the growing presence of AI, which again, like I said, is something which has come to stay, and it will only get better and better every day, because the guys behind these data centers are working, like, I mean, they're so efficient in that they improve on their products on a daily basis. Recently, I noticed that even on emails, when you try to write emails now, AI just pops up and tells you that, hey, I'm here to help. Just give me an idea. That's something I was not experiencing maybe 2 months ago, but now I do. I mean, those are all innovations that these guys are bringing into the system. In the space of research, I feel it's just about integrity. I think we need to build more on the integrity of the researcher. That is something which, again, it's subjective, because it's very subjective, but it's super relevant. Because if I don't want to be caught, I won't be caught. Yeah, but at the same time, to what end? To what end? Because when you use AI in research, it kind of makes the research unethical, and it falls below the values of research or of academics. So it's about integrity. Perhaps we need to invest more on teaching our students or empowering our researchers in building and upholding values which are respectful, values which reflect integrity, in a way that even off the camera, you'll still be able to behave in the appropriate manner. So you must not be threatened by the fact that we're going to do an AI dictator check on your work before you do the right thing. So even without such notifications, you should be able to just have a reflection that plagiarism these days, to me, it's not just a rule. It's more of, like, I mean, try to reflect and try to reason the justification behind plagiarism. I mean, the least thing you can give to somebody for using his or her work is acknowledgement, which is plagiarism, which is the underlying tone for plagiarism. And if you're using my work without acknowledging me, that is you being disrespectful. If you're using AI to do something and then you do not even disclose, because I mean, now recently it is now ethically accepted in some contexts, like here in Belgium, that if I do something and I use AI, I should be able to acknowledge that, okay, I used this AI in doing this, in doing this, in doing this in my work. Yeah, and then in that case, it becomes ethical. But if you use without acknowledging or doing a disclaimer that, okay, I use AI in this, then they hold it as being unethical. Yeah, so it's just about integrity.
Okay, that's interesting, and we'll take a short break and we'll come back. And just to indicate that today's edition of the podcast is sponsored by SolarFight, and so we'll be back in a jiffy.
Tired of financial headaches? Let SolarFight Accounting do the work. Running a business is hard enough. Why struggle with bookkeeping, tax filing, and inventory tracking? With SolarFight Accounting, you can stay tax compliant effortlessly with OHADA reporting. Save hours on manual bookkeeping. Avoid stock shortages and lost sales. Make smarter business decisions with real-time insights. Less stress, more growth, more time for what matters. Available in both French and English, online and offline. Try it free today at solarfight.tech.